Welcome to Real Thoughts with Bob Benham. I am your host, Bob Benham. Who else would I be? And we are going to be talking about the big topic of NASCAR. Yes, I am going to jump aboard that train that's going on right now and that everybody's talking about. You got Mark Martin, Dale Earnhardt Jr. They're uh, kind of the two main ones that are discussing it with the playoff format. You got Denny Hamlin and other drivers talking about the next gen car and that part of it. I have kind of not said too much about it. I did it earlier, a couple podcasts earlier. And I do follow NASCAR, not as religiously as I did. I mean, I used to be one that I watched every show about it every single night when they had RPM Tonight on ESPN2 and all that stuff that really talked about the sport. And they had a lot of used to go to the race shops and all that stuff and spend a lot of time talking about the sport and the drivers and talking to the crews, the owners, all that stuff. They don't do that as much now. Sadly, I would really like to see them do that again. They're more interested in the playoffs, the winning you're in thing, and all that kind of garbage, which I'm about to get to. They've lost. I mean, their fan base right now kind of solid. I would not say it is as solid as it once was, because they've really NASCAR shot itself in the foot. Let's put it that way. And it's not good what they've done. The biggest mistake they did was back in 2007, 2008, when they came out with the Car of Tomorrow. That was the start of the downfall of NASCAR. And Brian France, when he was CEO of NASCAR at the time, I got to give him credit. He actually came out and said, I screwed up. And you got to give him credit for that, for saying that, yeah, that was my screw up, my biggest screw up at that even. So, and I agree with him 100%. That was his biggest screw up because that car was a piece of junk. They went somewhere that oh boy, it was just it was the most ugly thing to see on the racetrack, with that stupid wing and the way that splitter stuck out and the groove on the front nose down where the valence used to be. And oh man, that thing was just horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. And the drivers hated it. They said it drove horrible. I glad I was not a driver in the Cup Series, because I don't think I would have been very happy either. But it was at that time that they decided they were going to just start really messing with everything. I mean, they were messing with. Uh, I mean, that's when the cars all had to be the same. The only way you could tell them apart was by the decals of the manufacturers. That was it. The way you knew it was a Ford was by having a Ford Fusion decal on the front and back. It was a Chevy if it had Chevrolet decals on the front and back. Otherwise, the cars were exactly the same. There was no difference. And they had a Chevy engine in them, or a Ford engine in them, or a Toyota engine in them, or Dodge engine in them. Other than that, the bodies were identical. Um, and then they decided, okay, well, we'll let the manufacturers play around with the front end nose piece and tail piece a little bit, kind of so they can get their identity back. Oh, it was a nightmare. Anyway, and then now they got this piece of junk, uh, this next gen junk that's on the track right now. That's just, I didn't think it could get worse than the car tomorrow, but they succeeded at making a car that's worse than the car tomorrow with this next gen piece of junk. Um, why they went this route, I don't have a clue. There is no production car on the market that has a sealed off underbody. Um, it has a floor pan that's just completely flat and sealed off like this car has. Um, this car has a single lug nut to hold the wheels on, and I can't think. And in fact, I don't believe there is a car anywhere in the world that's a production car that has a single lug nut holding its wheel on. And if it did, I'd run. I wouldn't buy it. Then these cars are just uh, the panels are prefabricated with whatever fiberglass, Kevlar, garbage, whatever it's made of. I mean, I don't even know what it's made of, but these guys can knock the hell out of one another, hit the wall, do whatever the heck they want, and the body pops right back out. It doesn't hurt the body whatsoever. I mean, there's no harm, no foul, unless they hit it hard enough where they damage the suspension. Get to the wheels and knock the suspension and hurt the wheels, or and tires. Um, and that would have to be a pretty hard hit. Um, that's not racing. I'm sorry. I don't like that at all. I just don't. There's no creativity. I mean, the NASCAR controls every piece and part on that car. Every piece and part the teams have to buy from NASCAR. Um, that's just not good, in my opinion. It's just not good. Back in the day, when NASCAR's heyday, and I'm going to say the heyday was around 2000. Well, I would go say I'll go 1998 to about 2007 was NASCAR's heyday. That about 10-year stretch. I mean, you couldn't get a ticket to a race. You called a speedway and said if you asked for tickets that you were put on a waiting list, especially if you wanted tickets for every year with like a season ticket type thing where you wanted to go to both races a year every year. You were on a waiting list, and it was a damn long waiting list. I mean, they were telling you, "Oh, you're about 3 years out," and you're like, "What?" Um, Crazy. In Bristol, to try to go to a race at Bristol Motor Speedway, forget it. Especially the night race. You were not going to get a ticket to that. And um, if if you went to go and thought, well, I'll just go and buy one, like from a scalper or something. Oh my God, the price you paid was just was just out of sight to get. And it was nuts. It was nuts. And I can tell you that because I attended a lot of races. Um, I had basically season tickets where I went to both races each year at Bristol, Martinsville, Charlotte, Talladega. Um, and then I would go to the one-off race at Atlanta, Homestead, um, Texas, Phoenix, Michigan. Golly, that's pretty much covers them all. I think that I've been to. As far as the cup races go. But yeah, I've been to a lot of tracks and seen a lot of races over the course of my life. North Wilkesboro, another one. Back in the day before it closed. Oh my God, that was the track to go to, was Wilkesboro. Oh, you talk about watching excellent racing and the atmosphere. Oh, there was no other track that could match it. No other track that could match it. When you went to Wilkesboro, you were experiencing an event. It was just absolutely phenomenal to go there, to watch a race there. Um, and back then, access to drivers was much easier. They were walking among the crowd, so you could, you would. I didn't do it because I it was just for me. It was I felt like I was intruding, but there, people were always asking for autographs, pictures with them, whatever, and um, I I didn't do that. I was happy to see him walking around with us. Hey, I would say hi. That'd be it. Um, so yeah, that was the about the limit of my interaction with the drivers. I would say hi, how you doing? Great race, whatever. Um, that was it. So, but yeah, it was back then. It was a totally uh, different experience than what it is now. Um, it's just today's environment is just not as fun. Um, you don't have that access to the drivers unless you go to their souvenir rig when they're sitting there for 45 minutes to get an autograph, or if they have some kind of sponsor related thing where you can sit, they'll sit there and sign autographs or whatever. Because everything, the drivers are totally isolated from the general public now. I mean, they've got their own motorhome lots, and it's usually right outside the garage area at the track. Um, and if it's not, then they have tunnels and overpasses, whatever. That's completely away from the general public, and they just walk back and forth, and they have zero contact with you. You don't hardly see them. I mean, because they got the uh, privacy fences up and stuff like that, so it's hard to see them. Um, it's just totally different, and it's not. It's just sterile today, and these drivers just think that they're way above fans, like especially the older type fan like myself and the ones that were the root fans of the sport. Um, so yeah, it has changed, and NASCAR like I said, they shot themselves in the foot. This next gen car eh, it just doesn't give crew chiefs the chance to be creative. Um, you know, they it's too reliant on aerodynamics. They seal off that nose with that stupid splitter. That thing's scraping the track, so there's no air getting under the car. Um, then they have that air diffuser, so it plants the back end of the car, and it completely messes up the car following. So there's no passing. It makes it so hard to pass. Um, so it doesn't get, and with the NASCAR providing all the parts and pieces and stuff, and the rules state that you cannot alter anything, anything. And if NASCAR catches anything being altered, the penalties are severe. I mean, we're talking crew chief suspended, uh, points lost, um, hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines. I mean, insane penalties. They find it after, like if you won the race and they find it, you disqualification, uh, that kind of stuff. And I mean, they're not fooling around with it. They're not. And so it's it has turned into a different sport in that regard. Um, so my thing is, I think they need to get rid of a couple of things and change it, and maybe bring something back to the sport that will make it more interesting. They need to bring some creativity back to it, and put some um, thought from the crew chiefs back into sport, and the engineers. And one of the ways to do that is bring the steel bodies back. Uh, let the teams bring their body hangers back the way they used to, and let them get creative. As long as the cars fit the templates, let them do their thing. And that was the whole point. Prior, the car had to fit the templates. Whatever was going on with the car in between, as long as it was fitting the templates, that's all that mattered. Um, go back to that. Um, because and then the steel bodies also bring two other things to mind. It prevents the drivers from banging into each other like children playing at the playground, because with them banging off each other, with the bodies doing what they do now, popping right back out, it doesn't prevent, yeah, they can just bang off each other all day long, and it doesn't, there's no penalty for it. You get them banging these steel bodies, and what happens? It knocks the fender in on a tire, cuts the tire down, and they're on pit road, period. They got to get it fixed. Otherwise, they're just done. So I really believe that they need to do that, so it prevents. I mean, they have to race more clean, and I prefer clean racing. I don't like banging the doors off each other for no reason, and that's happening quite a bit. Um, I want to see a race where when they're going, pass each other cleanly. You can do it. It's not hard. There were, I mean, for crying out loud, if you can't pass a guy cleanly, then don't try it. Don't knock him out of the way. Don't force him up the racetrack by banging him in the door and knocking him up out of the way. You don't need to do that. Pass him cleanly. Um, and the other thing is, it keeps them from banging off the wall more. I've noticed that there's been quite a few times where you'll see a guy get loose coming off the corner, and he'll actually let the wall straighten him out so he can come down the straightaway. I mean, I've seen it many times, and I think that the steel bodies. Hey, you don't want to get loose. You got to keep that car under control. If it means you got to slow down to get it back under control, and you lose a couple spots, hey, so be it. Make them back up. Go back after it. Um, that's just how it is. Uh, they need to get rid of that single lug nut. That is this. It's not Formula One, people. We're stock car racing. Granted, Kyle Petty will just go nuts over this because all he says is it's NASCARs. It's not stock cars. Well, yeah, Kyle, you're right. It's NASCARs. It ain't stock cars. Hasn't been stock cars since the 1970s because it's all specially made stuff. Okay. But it's still stock cars because it's made to look like a stock car. All right. So let's get back to the 5 lug nuts. Okay. It was meant to have the purpose of the 5 lug nuts was to slow the pit stops down so the car could be fueled completely and the stop could be completed safely and all that good stuff. Okay. Yes, they were down into the 13-second range with the 5 lug nut pit stop and getting gone. Great. Fabulous, fantastic, good on them. They're down into the 8-second range now doing this. I'm sorry, but we're not Formula One. We're not IndyCar. This is NASCAR. I would rather see them hitting 5 lug nuts. That is competition. That is pressure. That gives more of a human element to the sport. That's what this sport was created for. That's why you had 5 lug nuts. You had more of a human element involved in it all. Bring it back. There's nothing wrong with having 5 lug nuts on the car. Going to this single lug nut thing was the most stupid thing I think I've ever seen with this sport. That's one of them. That's one of them. Easily one of them. I got a new chair and this thing sucks. It's not very comfortable. Ugh. Excuse me. I can only sit maybe about a half an hour, and that's about it. I got to really readjust. I apologize, but um, but yeah, that's another thing. I mean, that single lug nut. Wow, that was when they announced that. I remember when they announced this car, and they said it got a single lug nut signal, yeah, single lug nut. I just I looked at my wife and I went, "What the hell are they doing? Why are they going that direction? That's this is NASCAR. This ain't Formula One. This ain't IndyCar. Why are they ruining the sport?" But anyway, then the other thing they need to get rid of with this next gen car is that damn splitter. They came out with that with the car of tomorrow. And they did that so they could seal the car off to the racetrack instead of having the valence. I thought the valence was great. There was no problem with that. So it scraped the ground. Oh well. But when you saw that race car come off of the corner, especially like at Martinsville and places like that, that car was raised in the air. You were seeing air get up underneath it. The only time that car was sealed to the ground was going in the corner. But anyway, I'm getting off track a little bit there, but they need to get rid of that splitter because now that car is sealed to the track all the time because that car literally is sitting on the ground. I mean, these drivers have to wear mouthpieces while they're driving the car because it literally rattles their teeth. I can't imagine the headache they have after they get out of the car. I just can't imagine that. Or the pain they have anywhere else, lower back, shoulders, neck, hips, knees. I can't imagine the pain they have because that is beating them up. Their eyeballs, my gosh, that constant, it, it's got to affect them. Nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about it, but it's got to be. You run down a street that has rumble strips. and see how it feels. Think about doing that for 500 miles. That's what the drivers go through. That's what it's like. That's because they have those cars literally sitting on the ground. That's how stiff they are, those suspensions are. They don't have, yeah, they have springs and shocks in them, just like your car on the street does, but they are sitting on the ground. They have them so stiff and down on the ground that that's how comfortable they are. It's like sitting on rumble strips for 500 miles. They need to get away from that, and they need to have a minimum height rule, and that's how you get. That's one way to get rid of that, a minimum height rule. So that way, that car can't sink down that far. That way, they have to have a little bit of spring and the shock to play. Give that car a chance to move a bit and not be so stiff and harm the drivers. They don't need to be harmed. I'm sorry. It just crazy stuff that they go through with these cars. I don't. I just don't like what NASCAR has done. I don't. I don't agree with it. I know they're never going to go back to the old style, the old Gen 4 car, or I mean, they can't go to that Gen 5 car tomorrow because that was the biggest piece of junk in the world. The Gen 6, that was much better, but this next gen piece of junk I mean, it's a death trap. I'm surprised somebody hasn't had more issues yet. I mean, there have been drivers hurt already because it's not a good car. Um, Now, the big thing that they are really been discussing here lately is the playoff format, and Mark Martin did a poll on his Twitter, or I'm sorry, X account. I saw it. I took part in it, and I totally agree um, with the majority. 60%, as a matter of fact, said that we need to go back to a 36 race championship. And I I completely agree with that. I know NASCAR will never do it. Um, they are so locked into this bogus playoff crap. But they need to be at the 36 race championship. It just completely legitimizes the championship. It completely legitimizes it because it rewards the best driver, period. The driver that had the best season from beginning to end. The most consistent driver from beginning to end. The one that had the most top tens, the most top fives, not necessarily the most wins, but just put together the most consistent season. Earn the most points. That's what you're supposed to do. That's what every local short track in the United States, that's their point system. You have the most consistency from the beginning of the season to the end of the season, and you're the champion. You go to any other series, ARCA series, you go to um, Cars Tour series, all these other series, from the beginning of the season to the end, you earn the most points, you're the champion. Why is it that NASCAR thinks that this stupid playoff system is the way to go? Okay, so back in 2003, Matt Kenseth won the championship with 3 races to go. He was kicking their butts. He was kicking everybody's butt so bad, it wasn't even funny. It was an anomaly. But back in 1992, you had the closest championship in history when Alan Kulwicki beat Bill Elliott by 10 points because he led one more lap than Bill Elliott did. One more lap. And that man calculated that in his head. Come on. More championships were closer than that. Dale Earnhardt, how many times did he win the championship with more than one race left to go in the season? And just because Matt Kenseth did it, we got to change the whole system. Please. All it was, I'm not going to go there. I know I know how it was, and it was because NASCAR hated Jack. It still does hate Jack Roush. This was a known fact back then. NASCAR hated Jack Roush, and so when Matt Kenseth came along and just wiped everybody out and won that championships in such a big way, NASCAR panicked because Jack Roush had his cars just kicking behind so bad, and NASCAR panicked and said, "Oh, we have to figure something out so they can't do this to us again." And they came up with this stupid chase format where it was a 10 race deal where the top 10 cars in points got the chance to race for the championship. And guess what? Kurt Busch from Roush Racing kicked their butts and took it. So Roush said, okay, change it. We'll get it again. And they did. And NASCAR started to tinker again. Oh, we gotta do this. We gotta come up with something different. NASCAR's, they play favorites. Trust me, they play favorites. I'm sorry. This chair is not as good as my old one. But anyhow, it I was told many years ago, many years ago, because I got upset about a race one time, and I was at my friend's house, and my friend at the time, he worked with the race team in NASCAR, and I'm not going to say the team. I'm not going to say who he is or anything like that because it's and it was a championship team. Um, so I mean, it's not like it was just any team or whatever. But I'll let it go at that. But he told me, he said, Bob, why do you think they call this a show? When you watch NASCAR on TV, they always say, hey, it was a great show. We put on a great show. He says it because it's exactly what it is. It's not about the racing, it's about the show. He said, it's, we're not out there racing. He says, we're putting on a show. He said, don't you think NASCAR's already figured out, or has it already figured out who's winning tonight? He says, it's all set up. He says, it's like the WWE. It's all predetermined unless something ungodly drastic happens. And I was like, I never thought about it, but yeah, now that you mentioned that, when you're watching a race, you pretty much can tell who's going to win. And it's amazing uh, how that works. But anyway, back to the whole championship thing. But yeah, it needs to be back to the 36 race championship. It just does. Um, because I mean, you can't have one race determine who the champion is. You can't go to where it's like, okay, we had this nice little playoff system where four drivers were eliminated after three races, and another four, and another four, and now we got these four racing one race for the championship. Okay, so these four drivers are racing for the championship, and you got one guy that was 15th in points racing for the championship, and he ends up winning it. Wow. That's that no. And then you have, like, now this whole winning you're in thing is garbage. The win and you're in the playoffs. And you have a guy that's a road course ringer in the Cup Series right now. He's won 4 road course races, and he's in the playoffs. Can't do worth the crap on an oval, and he's in the playoffs. I don't know where he is in points currently. I haven't looked lately. But at one point, he was 32nd in points. 32nd of 36 drivers in points. And he's in the playoffs. Yeah. Okay. So now you got a guy that's 32nd, that was 32nd in playoff, or in the points, running in the playoffs for a championship. Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. Yeah, okay. I I mean, I was watching, um, Kenny Wallace have a, podcast. He has his, Kenny Conversation podcast, and he was talking to Mark Martin. And Mark Martin, like I said, he's been really outspoken about this. Um, Kevin Harvick has been somewhat, um, um, but Mark really has been, and I support Mark Martin 100%. I was back in the day. Mark was my favorite driver. He was, oh God, he was the epitome of class as a race car driver. Um, and I really enjoyed watching him race. And he was just wonderful. But anyway, um, he on that podcast he said that he feels the sport. Uh, he says he feels the sport and quote what I accomplished in my career is being diminished by gimmicks unquote with how NASCAR has messed with the championship with the playoff formats. And he's absolutely right. Because NASCAR has done so much with these stupid gimmicks with the playoffs and everything else by putting these gimmicks in and the stage racing, all this other crap that it makes what he accomplished, it just diminishes it. Mark Martin ran the fastest race in NASCAR history. The fastest race in NASCAR history. He ran Talladega Superspeedway caution free and averaged over 188 miles an hour for that race. 188 miles an hour for 500 miles. That's insane. That is insane. That will never be broken. Never. That record is there for eternity. Because NASCAR right now, with all this stage racing and throwing cautions for every little damn thing there is, that will never be broken. They will never get that. Nobody will come close. And I remember that race. I watched it. And I was stunned that that race went caution free. Those guys raced in a pack that entire race. Crazy. Crazy. And that comes to the next point, which is that stage racing has to go. There is no reason, zero, to run so many laps so they can have a green and white checkered flag fly, and then immediately the caution after the top 10 of that segment crosses the finish line for that stupid green and white checkered flag, and then get the yellow so they can have their pit stops. So they could reward the top 10 points. So the guy that won that segment gets 10 points. Woo! And the guy that finished 10th gets 1. Please. These drivers ran local tracks for a long time before they made it to the NASCAR Cup Series. And when you make it to the Cup Series, the whole point of it is to be able to run 500 miles or 500 laps under green flag conditions with the possibility of there being no yellow flag. Hello? You're supposed to have that stamina of not being where you have to be stopping after so many laps. Oh, we have to have this green and white checkered flag and stop the race for 10, 15 minutes while we do whatever, and then we have to have another segment so we can do the same thing, and then we'll have a big segment at the end. What the hell is that? Come on. The best part of going to a race is when you go there, the green flag waves at lap 1 and the checkered flag waves at the end, and there's none of that crap in between. I remember when they had the halfway bonus. And those guys would race for that. Let me tell you. It was simply a $10,000 bonus. And you'd see these guys, they would get on the wheel and race for that $10,000. Now, if you want to have the stage racing, fine. I don't care. But keep it under green. And at that whatever lap, whoever with the top 10 crosses that line on that lap, they get awarded points. But keep it green. Don't throw the yellow flag. There's no reason to. We need to keep the races going. That's the point. I mean, they throw the yellow flag now if a car just simply spins out. Holy cow. They never did that back in the day. The only time they would throw the yellow flag is if that car couldn't get started again. They watched that car forever. Is it moving? Is it moving? Is it moving? No. Throw the yellow. If that car got moving again, stayed green. That was the whole point. And now, the caution flags, my God. Back then, they cleared that track as fast as they could to get it back under green again. You go to a race and it was like A short track, 4 or 5 laps. Man, all right, let's go. Let's get it cleaned up. Go, go, go. They didn't have a sweeper truck out there sucking up the oil dryer after that. They just threw it down on the track, had guys with brooms working it in, and they got the heck out of there and they turned them loose. And those cars drove through it. You saw big clouds of that stuff being thrown everywhere. 2 to 3 laps of that, it was gone. Didn't have to worry about it. You didn't see jet dryers out there, every caution blowing whatever off speedway. If there was tire rubber out there, whatever, it stayed. The drivers just knew not to get into it. They avoided it. That was part of racing. You avoided whatever was out there on the track. Come on. It's crazy what they're doing. How they're sabotaging the sport. All I can figure, I mean, I know the TV runs it. I know it. They spent all this money for the TV rights, the TV deals, and so they run the show. They say, "Hey, we're doing this, and you got to live with it." And sadly, NASCAR just says, "Okay, whatever." Two other things I think that NASCAR needs to get do something about. The other is too many road courses. NASCAR wasn't founded on road courses. NASCAR was founded as an oval track series, a short track oval track series. And they need to get back to that. They need to go back to their roots. That will bring the fans back. This whole thing of these cookie cutter intermediate tracks is nuts. They've lost their way with the short tracks. This Gen X, next gen car, Gen X, I'm Gen X. This next gen car is not a good short track car. It sucks. They need to get rid of that badly. It's not a good road course car. They need to drop the road courses down to 2. Sonoma, which is your technical road course, and Watkins Glen, which is your high speed, fast, let's go get her road course. That's it. That's all they had for years were those 2 road courses, and it worked just fine. Didn't need all this other crap. NASCAR was not meant to run on streets, city streets. NASCAR wasn't meant to go to all these other road courses. Don't need them. Sonoma and Watkins Glen. That's it. Back to the ovals. Find some short tracks to go to. Wilkesboro, put it on schedule. Make it a points race. Put 2 back at Richmond. It's time to get this back to the short tracks. Find a good, true oval. Dig up Atlanta. Make it a true oval again. That track was phenomenal when it was a true oval. Phenomenal. Those nice quarter mile turns, half mile straightaways. Awesome. Couldn't be better. They ruined it when they made it a tri oval. Homestead. Oh my gosh. They need to build a duplicate of that track. And, well, for the last thing that I got to get out, this SMT data that NASCAR collects and the teams collect, and it's a lot of data about shares that NASCAR makes sure that it's shared with every team in the garage. So Roush Racing can look at what Hendrick Motorsports is doing and get what Joe Gibbs Racing is doing, and vice versa. I mean, it's gotten so crazily computerized and technical. They can see exactly what a particular driver is doing in the car. They know what their position is with the steering wheel, what they're doing with the gas, what they're doing with their brake. Yeah, how much gas they're using. It's just crazy what information they're getting, and they've got teams. When on a Sunday race, you see the people up on the pit boxes. Yeah, they got their computers sitting there and everything else, but they're also in communication with a huge team sitting back at what they call the war rooms back at the team shops. And they've got untold numbers of people sitting there with computer screens and monitors sitting on walls watching this data, watching the race, and analyzing everything and telling the crews at the race what is happening with certain drivers, and so that they can adjust what they're doing to match what that driver's doing, if that driver's catching them or what's going on. Incredible. Hate it. Hate it. That's not the way it's supposed to be. NASCAR should not be sharing that stuff with everybody. The team, yeah, no problem. They should be able to look at their own data. No problem. For that car, for that specific car, they should be able to see what they're doing. But for the whole, to be able to see what every other driver is doing and every other team, no, 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 no. Because it should be back to like it was in the day where everybody's doing their own thing and everybody's trying to figure out what each other is doing to make themselves faster to beat the other guy. They didn't back in the day, they didn't have computer screens sitting in front of them. They didn't have people in a war room telling them what was going on with everybody else. You had the pit crew sitting there, you had the crew chief and a couple other guys sitting up on the top of the box. Actually, sometimes they didn't even have back then, they didn't really have a box to sit on. They were just sitting on the wall on pit road watching and with stopwatches trying to figure out who was faster and all that stuff and trying to figure out, okay, well, now what do we do to the car to make it faster? And they were talking to the driver, and the driver was telling them, hey, I think I need a pound of air here in the right front or whatever, because they went based on the driver's feel. And that's how they figured out how to make the car faster instead of all this technical crap where the computer tells them how to set up the car and the driver just has to drive whatever it says. I don't know. It just doesn't. I just don't like how this technology crap has just completely taken over and ruined something that was good. Um, and it has. I mean, it has ruined something that was good. That was phenomenal, actually. Um, and you talk to people like me that went to the races back then, and they will tell you that's the golden age of NASCAR, um, the golden era of NASCAR. This stuff that's going on with it now, um, it's just not it. It's just not it. They've lost their way. They've become too corporatized, um, and too committeeized. I don't know if that's a word, but it is right now. Everything's done by committee, and that doesn't work. It's never worked. Um, they need to figure out a way to kind of learn from their history. I mean, they've been around 75 years plus. That's a long time for a sport to be around, especially motorsport. It's seen a lot of changes. Yes, it has. And they need to figure out how to kind of split things down the middle in a way, I guess, where because they're losing their core fan. And they've lost a lot of their core fans, which are the people like me, the Generation Xers. The baby boomers are pretty much gone, but like the Generation Xers, like myself, we're pretty much fed up with what they're doing, um, and they really don't care. I don't know why. We're the ones that have the money to spend on the sport. Um, I know they're trying to, get engaged with the young people Good on them. I mean, yeah, they're trying to grow the sport with them, but the young people really don't care. I talk to the young people all the time, and I bring up NASCAR, and they're like, "What? What is that?" Stock car racing. Oh, that still goes around? That's still going on? Well, yeah. Um, they don't know about it because a lot of the short tracks around here and around the country are gone. Um, I mean, in the area that I'm in, the ones that I used to go to are gone. I have to drive 2 hours to go to a short track. That's crazy. Um, so the sport is hurting. Um, I don't know the answers to it all. I know it's expensive, very expensive. It was expensive when I was racing back in 2000, 99, 2000, 2001. Um, and that's what forced me out. Um, but I had fun. I really did. Learned a lot. Oh my gosh, I learned a lot about cars. I learned a lot about stock car racing. I learned a lot about setups, chassis. Oh my gosh. Um, but it was fun. A lot of knowledge, a lot of things about it that just it's incredible what the sport is. Uh, and there's so much to it that the normal person that watches it has no idea um, what's involved to make that car turn left and carry the speed it carries. Um, and how much courage that driver has to trust in that car to go that fast. Um, it's pretty intense. So anyway, that was my take on NASCAR right now. I know it sounded like a um, bitching session, basically, but no, it's just that it was me saying, "Hey, we NASCAR needs changes to survive," and um, I hope I gave some kind of answers or some kind of ideas to uh, better the sport. And that's all I'm looking for. I'm looking for NASCAR to be better and to make the product better on the track. Um, and that's all. That's all I'm looking for. Um, because I love watching it. I love the sport. Um, the drivers are incredible, all of them, every single one of them, even the ones that are at the back of the pack and stuff, because it takes so much to get behind the wheel of one of those cars. You have no idea. I do. I've done it. Um, it takes a lot. It takes a lot. Um, because those cars dri drive so different um, from anything you can even think of. It's incredible. So with that, thank you for tuning in for this episode. I appreciate it. Maybe I mean, if you're a NASCAR fan, hopefully maybe you I learned something about the sport that you didn't know before. And that was something that opened your eyes to NASCAR a little bit. Otherwise, hopefully, somewhere down the line, somebody will listen and or get point in my direction and listen to what fans are really saying about what's going on with NASCAR that they think needs to be changed to make the sport enjoyable and put out a more productive product and go from there. Again, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Really do appreciate it. Hope it was informative and enjoyable. And please watch your backs. Be aware of your surroundings. Things out there are very, 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 very tense. And I just want everybody to be safe and be aware of your surroundings at all times. At all times. Keep your nose out of your phone. Watch what you're doing. Watch what's going on around you. Take care of yourselves. God bless you. God bless the United States of America. And until next time, this has been Real Thoughts with Bob Benham. I am Bob Benham, and you all take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.